You are now listening to the Film Situation podcast.
Today on the Film Situation, I'm joined by filmmaker and producer Janek Ambros. Janek is the founder of Assembly Line Entertainment and has produced and directed a wide range of independent films, both narrative and documentary. His work is screened in connection with major festivals, including Sundance, Venice, and South by Southwest. And he's collaborated with such acclaimed artists such as James Cromwell and Janusz Kaminski. Welcome, Janek.
Thanks so much for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
So, by the way, I watched your documentary last night, Imminent Threat.
Oh, you did? That was I made that a while ago. I made that when I was 25.
Yeah, I saw that it came out a while ago, but I really enjoyed it. Actually, I thought it was really strong.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I haven't heard if anybody's watched that in a minute, man. It's been 11 years, since it came out.
Yeah. So I guess let's go back to the beginning, man. How did you get into film? How did you get into this in the first place? I think I read that you studied economics before film. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. But like, it goes back further than college. I mean, really, I was just one of those kind of kids who would make stop motion videos when I was, 5 or whatever, and was just always wanted to make movies. I kind of hit a little bit of a detour. As you just mentioned, I studied economics, and I kind of did that very purposefully because I, just growing up around my friends and their parents, I kind of knew money made the world go round. So I kind of was like, I'm gonna always direct and write, but at the same time, I'm going to study finance and business and economics, not just to understand kind of economics, you get a really clear understanding of how the world works, that it's not, politics is very like subterranean to economics. Like economics really dictates a lot of politics, if you will.
100%.
And so aside from that, though, I just wanted to kind of have a good business understanding so I can bifurcate my career into two things: is one, be a founder and be a producer and be entrepreneurial, and then the other half be creative and writing and directing, because I just couldn't see myself really doing commercials or music videos. Like I love narrative film, and if that means producing them for a little bit or being executive producer by scrounging around and finding money for bigger projects like what I did with 10,000 Saints or Human Capital, both of which played at Sundance and TIFF respectively. And then eventually the plan was to kind of meet them in the middle, where I would be running my company and hiring myself to write and direct movies, which is kind of where I'm at now. So in the past year or two. So really, it's always been kind of a master plan to kind of just not write and direct and kind of be a struggling writer and director, but not, I wouldn't say as like a backstop, but also just have that ability to run a company and also just help other filmmakers. I get a lot of satisfaction in producing other people's work, stuff I would never be able to write. Like a lot of the projects I've been a producer and executive producer on. And so, yeah, I hope that answers your question, but long story short, it's just really splitting up my mind between business and art and commerce, which is kind of the story of movies,
Yeah, actually, I had studied business before getting into film. I went to business school as well. I went to Pace University in New York.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
Only because I didn't.
Siena, upstate New York.
Nice. And where are you originally from?
I was born in New Jersey, but I grew up in Albany, New York.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. Yeah. I used to I've been to Albany to attend, I went to a concert, I think at this place called Valentine's back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you know about it?
I'm a big Albany stan. I love Albany. It's where I grew up. It's got a lot of character. I love that city. So it's
Nice.
it's kind of where that's what kind of raised me.
Cool. So I guess tell me, how did you start your company, Assembly Line Entertainment? How did that come about?
I started in the basement of my friend's house in Albany, just being on the computer, and we were partying, and I was watching movies, and I was just like, I'm gonna make a website for my own company, and I was 22, and then I moved out to Hollywood like a few months later, and ever since then I've just kept the same company.
Amazing.
The one consistent thing that I have is I always have that. But no, I mean, really, it was just like I was very inspired by American Zoetrope, what Coppola did in the late 60s, 70s. And I really wanted to create an atmosphere of like a production company with a lot of directors I knew, and I would direct one and my friend would direct another. And I would, like I said, be kind of half commerce, half art. And I knew that the only way to really do that is if I had my own company. And it just kind of slowly grew from there. I mean, I started off doing like avant-garde films as a director. So the short films, played at festivals. And then, like I said before, I started to kind of find money for projects that had A-list celebrities. So that was kind of a shortcut as a producer to kind of put my name out there of somebody who, can get movies off the ground or whatever. And as I grew up, it just started growing with me. And it's still the company I work with today. And it's obviously grown a lot since then. So it really was just zero money, startup money, making a website, starting with some short films, and just really consistently chipping away at that every week for I don't know, I can't count how many years now, 14 years, whatever. So it's just every, and then Imminent Threat was one of the first features we did. So you brought that up. So that was and we made a profit on it, and stuff like that, because I only made it for 10 G's.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. And how long of a timetable was it from like when you had the idea to starting shooting Imminent Threat, and then when it was finally released?
Oh, it's funny. I was really into the kind of the anti-war movement during Obama, which will confuse a lot of people because I think people just weren't aware of the kind of the JSOC and like the
drone
stuff we were
strikes.
doing.
Yeah.
Drone strikes. I mean, people now are even talking about Trump, going over the war powers resolution. I mean, the documentary actually talked about that. Obama did the same thing. I'm not making a moral equivalent, by the way, but like, so there was just kind of like a very niche anti-war movement during Obama that included like Michael Hastings, which the movie's dedicated to, Glenn Greenwald, who's now totally, I don't know, kind of batshit, but Jeremy Scale and stuff like that. So I was very much influenced by those guys, and Laura Poitras too, who's amazing. Who did Citizen 4? Yeah,
Citizen 4 was.
And so I just kind of had the idea of like, okay, well, what if there was more of a political doc? Because the cool thing about docs is it doesn't need to be subtextual. I can just tell people what I think. You know what I mean? With movies, I never would write a movie with a narrative, a narrative movie with a message. But the Imminent Threat was pretty clearly just saying that, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, we can work together, these pockets of the different parties, to stop the kind of, for lack of a better word, the U.S. war machine.
Right.
So, it's pretty radical stuff back in the day. A lot of people were confused by it because they were like, it's anti-Obama, so it's like right wing. And I was like, no.
That's what I liked about the
now people would understand it. I think younger people understand this more. Like back then,
so?
I think
yeah.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
there's still people that really, unless something fits neatly into one box, they're like, oh, well, what is that? That's right. Like, I feel like, I don't know,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, now anybody looking at it would think somebody's crazy for thinking that. But I think just because the Hollywood institutional Hollywood would loved Obama so much that any kind of criticism they took as some sort of offense or whatever.
Definitely.
But no, it was just obviously just blatantly foreign interventionalism. And so really I shot a bunch of interviews from people from ACLU, which is obviously very left-leaning, or even whatever you want to call it. And then people at the Cato Institute, who were definitely more of a small government people, but were anti-war. And I kind of just made the point by making the interviews and collecting all the stock footage. But at one point, I remember I wasn't even going to make the doc, really. I remember I said, oh, I think I lost the footage. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then just it popped up later, and I was like, I should edit this into a movie.
Yeah.
And so it was very an unconventional way to make a movie, just like my second feature, which is even probably more unconventional, but took a lot more effort. But yeah, so really it took like a year and a half. I kind of was doing it as I went. It wasn't really like a planned budget. I just went to a few conferences, interviewed people, and I spent a lot of time editing. Editing is my opinion, or I should say just is my favorite thing. I joke that everything's a necessary evil just to get to the editing room because I just love editing so much. It's like writing almost, but with the movie.
Yeah.
And so I kind of made the movie in the edit room. I mean, otherwise it was just a bunch of random people talking. And I had an agenda when I was interviewing them, and I just kind of forgot about it. And then I just got really into avant-garde experimental editing. Eisenstein's a huge influence on mine. Like, since you just watched the movie, there's a lot of like harsh editing,
Sergey
a lot of
Eisenstein.
fast paced.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of fast paced editing. And that was kind of more of an experiment to do that. But I was also very at the time, and still am to some degree, but I think the landscape has shifted so much of kind of what I was saying politically too. So that definitely was a passion, but I would say the equal passion was really getting in there and editing like a maniac, because that's fun,
I love editing as well. And I come from an editing background. So that was my sort of first foray into film. So I appreciate that sentiment completely.
Oh yeah. I mean, every you watch, you listen, you read, or I listen. I'm dyslexic, so I listen to books constantly and I read them.
I'm an Audible junkie, man. I listen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So all of the greats who wrote books are always, they have a very consistent theme of saying like editing is just hands far and away the most important aspect of filmmaking. You don't want to compare the things. It's like a silly argument, but and
Right.
I'm not doing that, but I am just saying there's a very thematic consistency with being like post-production is so important.
It's so
Because,
important.
yeah, it's like you can make you can make a bad performance a great performance. You can make a great performance a bad performance. Like you can just, editing is just where everything's shaped. I mean, editing
Yeah.
is the difference between other mediums. Like that's why even sometimes like movies that are just oneers, it's like to me, I'm like, man, editing is what separates all the other art forms. Like you can manipulate someone's brain by just doing one cut, kind of the 4 rules of montage, whatever that Eisenstein talks about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just just so cinema. Cinema is editing. So that's just like I really learned how to edit in those first 5-6 years out here and with my company and that movie and Mondo Hollywoodland too, my second movie as a director. That was really like that was really fun to do, because I know that I'll never be able to edit in that sort of free stylistic freedom, presumably, other than maybe a sequence in a movie that's a dream sequence, but most of it's some stuff I'll never be able to really do in a narrative feature.
Well, I guess tell for the audience that's not familiar with Mondo Hollywood, how would you describe it?
Completely psychedelic, silly, stupid, fun movie about a mushrooms dealer who's very groovy, who traverses around Hollywood to find the meaning of Mondo. And he kind of stumbles into these pockets of like weirdos, dreamers, and titans, like political fringe groups. And it's a kind of a goofy cinema verite movie that's in the subgenre of Mondo. Mondo is a genre. Now the genre of Mondo are much more provocative and more intense stuff, which I didn't really feel like doing, like more kind of like, maybe more the Corman era or even weirder than that. But we kind of made it this narrative / cinema verite movie about the kind of all the weirdos in Hollywood. And it was very fun to make.
What inspired that, really?
I went to a screening. Paul Thomas Anderson, this is back in like 2015 or 16.
When he was like doing Inherent Vice, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he was doing Inherent Vice, and part of his influence on Inherent Vice was Mondo Hollywood, the first one, the 1967 version. So he did a screening with Robert Carl Cohen, the director of Mondo Hollywood, and it was much more documentary style. And I basically just kind of reached out to Robert Carl Cohen, and I was like, "Can I make a unofficial sequel to your movie?" And so that's kind of how it started. I was very just like, if I'm gonna make a weird, experimental, psychedelic, cheap, rough, goofy film, it has to be now. I'm never gonna do that later when I already kind of have more establishment movies. People just think I went crazy. So I feel like it was like the one chance where I can just kind of go total free form, like not even look at it as a stepping stone or, this is like, I wanted to get, like, of course we wanted to get into the major festivals, but it was just kind of freeing. We're like, we can just do whatever we want. And if we find it funny, Chris Blim, the producer and star of the movie, and Marcus, the co-writer of the movie, with Blim and I, and all my friends who are actors and all the weirdos we encountered, it was just like total freedom. It's like fuck the rules of cinema. Let's just make anarchy on screen. And this isn't a stepping stone film. This isn't trying to placate to programmers. It really was just pure fuckery. It was just like, all right, let's just do crazy stuff. You know what I mean?
That's
And
awesome, man.
it's refreshing. I mean, it's like, cause I
Yeah.
know I'll never really be able to do that again. Maybe like on the end of my career, I'll be able to do that. But now it's like, it's a little bit more like, okay, what's the story? What's the script? Has to go through producers,
Right.
development teams, studios, whatever. But then it was just like, fuck it. Let's just do whatever we want.
I know what you're saying. It feels like, because I've made a bunch of short films before I made a feature film, and I look at some of my early shorts and I'm like, man, I was just there was something exciting when, I clearly didn't know what I was doing and things were more free.
Yeah. And,
I was
and
just
Mondo,
having fun.
yeah. And Mondo was a feature, it was 75 shoot days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Over an entire summer. They weren't real shoot days where it was like 9 to 10 p.m. It was like sometimes 2 hours. Sometimes we'd be at a bar partying and like a car exploded outside. And so I went up to the car, like while it was exploding, and the fire, guys were like, dude, get out of the way. And I shot it. And then I was like, okay, how can we incorporate a car exploding into the movie? And it's just goofy like that.
That's
and yeah, so I know, like I said, it didn't get into like the midnight, the Sundances or the South bys, but it's like, you can't replicate something like that. You just have to be young and crazy and do something like that. And it's just kind of a weird, it's like a weird, the movies I kind of see now as I get a little bit older is like, it's almost like it's like home movies for yourself. It's like, oh, I remember that, like I remember doing that. That was fun. And it's just like, so if you just continue to create stuff, there's always kind of a checkpoint, which I kind of miss. I haven't directed a movie in a while. The last movie I directed was The Ukrainians in Exile, which was, a much different tone.
Right.
Very serious.
We'll get to that
but
in a few.
yeah, for sure. And so like, it makes me itchy to direct again, but I'm kind of on a more traditional path now with some of the movies I'm doing. But no, it's like one of those things I think everybody should experience and not worry too much about the festivals and with whether programmers are like them, and just kind of do what your id says, is just kind of go with what your gut says and what you want to express, and whatever that is, let it roll, because it's going to be harder to do it later.
I know. And there's something to that too, man, because sometimes you can't plan everything. Like when I think I was reading about like David Fincher when he made the movie Panic Room, and he's one of the most meticulous filmmakers. And he said that he planned that film too much. Like he just basically shot the storyboards as is, and he felt that there was something lost. So there has to be kind of, I think I actually saw an interview once with Paul Thomas Anderson and Martin Scorsese, and Paul Thomas Anderson said to Scorsese, he's like, do you ever get to a scene and you just have no idea how you're going to actually shoot it? And Scorsese was like, oh, all the time. And Anderson was like, oh, okay, it's not just me. It's not just me. So I'm like, all right, those are two people at the top of the game sometimes saying that. So I think like for every filmmaker, there's times where I think you have to give yourself a little bit of freedom to figure it out.
I mean, how I'm planning, I mean, that Mondo is such an extreme example of that, to the point where it was just lunacy. But, even going forward, it's like I plan meticulously, and I was planning too much. Like I did this movie, this short film, Son of Man, that was an adaptation of Dostoevsky's Grand Inquisitor, but instead of the Spanish Inquisition, it took place during the Croatian Nazi era, which were Catholic Nazis. And everything I storyboarded was exactly how I saw it. And it's like, okay, well and that's probably how I'll make a lot of my movies. But Mondo is a reminder. It's like a very extreme reminder of like, plan, and then let a little bit of that Mondo out of you, where you kind of say, oh, fuck the plan. Let's maybe do this. Because the actors are your collaborators. They're filmmakers just as much as a film director. Everybody's equally a filmmaker. I hate the word filmmaker when it's just talking about a director, because everybody's a filmmaker.
It's a collaborative medium. The whole thing is
of course. So like the idea, even it's like, not to, I don't need to like, rag on the DGA, but the fact that it's like they got a film by, is like funny to me. It's like, that's just like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not a film by one person. It's not a single, though I will say like, for history books and people studying of cinema and stuff like that, I do think it's important for authorship. I mean, part of the reason why people don't remember, there's not a lot of big history and studies of history of the Magic Lantern era, which was like, movies existed, motion pictures existed for hundreds of years before cinema, and it was Magic Lantern things. But because there was no singular author, it was hard to kind of like be like, oh, that was the guy, or this was his authorship. So there's some value in that, but I also just think it's anybody who knows about movies, unless you're writing, directing, producing, starring in the movie, then I can say, okay, that's his movie. But if you're a director and you co-wrote the script with somebody or someone else entirely wrote the script, it's just always a kind of a silly thing. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, is Network, is it a Sidney Lumet film? Like, oh, it's also Patty Chayefsky. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's a great,
so
great
yeah,
film, by the
that's
way.
one of my tangents. I don't know how I got there.
No, listen, that's the form of the podcast. Feel free to tangent away, my friend. And it's funny, I was just thinking about Sidney Lumet yesterday because years ago I bought the book Making Movies by Sidney
Oh, so
Lumet.
good.
So good. And I bought a used copy of it on Amazon because it was really cheap at the
Wait,
time.
like George Clooney had notes in there or something?
No, but it's funny you say that. But the book came signed actually from Sidney Lumet. It was like to Dave or whoever from
Right.
Sidney, like keep at it. I'm like, that's so cool.
cool.
Like it felt like it went from Sidney Lumet's hand and got to my hand eventually. You know?
That's kind of a little bit of a Bible for directors. I mean, that's kind of become a thing, and I've read it a couple times now, and it is well, the biggest thing I'll say about that movie, and I'll even apply it to even something as crazy as Mondo or Imminent Threat, or even my avant-garde films, is what is this movie in one sentence? I'll always go by that. That's probably the most important thing that is
important.
maybe reaffirmed in me, because I always I've heard that somewhere else, whatever. But being able, when you get lost and you start going down curvy roads that aren't the main road, what you're supposed to be on, which is good, like we talked about, but having a kind of North Star of what you know the movie is, and you kind of have to remind yourself constantly that this movie is about guilt. Something as simple as that. Maybe one word. And everything stem from that. It really should. Like, I think every department head that makes a decision should stem from that in some way. Every actor decision, every decision as a director, what composer you should get. If you kind of have that basic sense of what the movie is, thematically, or maybe it's a very character-driven piece where it's about a character dealing with X. Just have that be your North Star, and then you never really can get that lost. You're just like, oh, we just have to go back to that.
That's great advice. Do you have a preference on directing or producing?
Oh, I mean, it's just so different. I mean, of course, I like directing more. I mean, I'm a producer by kind of necessity, because like I talked about earlier, I was just kind of like, okay, if I don't know how to produce, then I'm not just like, I can't imagine a world in which I'm understanding producing. I don't know what that's like. I produced for so long, but I can't imagine being like a director and just having not really an understanding of that, because I feel like you just have a little bit more control. And I'm not saying like, oh, I have full control over everything, but like in some cases I have a say in the matter of a producer situation, and that helps me as a director. But they're just different things. Like filmmaking or directing is more of a satisfaction from a creative standpoint, an expressive standpoint that is unmatched. And I'm lucky if I can make a movie every 3 years. But I'm, I would say second favorite is writing, working with the director. I'm working with 4 different directors right now on 4 of my scripts. And I love that, because there's no possible way I can direct all my movies. I have like 30 scripts. So like, I love working with as a writer with a director, or even just selling it or whatever, but mostly working with a director. And then my third favorite is producing, but it's a different kind of thing. It's like, there's something cool about just helping someone else with their movie. And, and also not just being altruistic, like being a part of that in some kind of more entrepreneurial way. Like being a part of Alessandra's movie In the Summers, that won Sundance. Like I worked on that for years, and it was a huge producing team effort. Some producers had way more on the line than I did, and some of which worked harder or whatever. But like I was on that for 4 years, and it was really cool to see that, not just executive producing, but really producing, and seeing her win Sundance, and seeing us all win Sundance, and being nominated for Indie Spirit Awards was fucking awesome. But
it's amazing, man.
Yeah, that doesn't have that, but I don't have that creative outlet. So like, that's why I've kind of joked to my friends that I've retired from producing, unless I'm a writer on it. But I still get tricked into producing other people's movies all the time. So
know what you're saying.
No, I'm like actively trying not to produce, but I still end up producing, which is funny. But no, I really have to pivot to producing my own stuff, because I don't get that big satisfaction need. But I learned from Coppola to kind of, to help produce other people's movies, because it takes a village. The cavemen figured it out, right? Like, if we work together, we'll survive. If everybody goes off on their own in the woods, you're not going to survive.
Oh,
And I
man.
think there's
Yeah.
something lost in the new generation of filmmakers. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they all hang out and they're all best friends, and we just don't know about it, or I don't know about it. But it's like, I just don't think that there's a communal thing with directing as much as there used to be in the 70s. I mean, I don't think anybody can argue that there's any parallel to the 70s. So, I mean, maybe, I'm sure there are still a lot of buddies who pump each other's up and watch each other's screenings and stuff like that. But I mean, in the 70s, they all collectively worked
They
together.
all did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scorsese,
And I'm sure they all had, I'm sure it wasn't all,
Lucas.
yeah, I'm sure it wasn't all like fucking Skittles and rainbows. I'm sure that there was fighting and stuff like that. And like people who were envious of one person, or yelling at somebody for having notes on a screening that was maybe, but there
was still that camaraderie.
Yeah, there was a communal effort. And, Coppola, I think, was kind of the godfather of it. And I think he liked being the godfather of it. So there's that aspect too, where it's not like everybody's just kind of this egalitarian kind of viewpoint of all filmmakers kind of working together. But I think that it at least had that kind of sense of like, the film brats were a community. Like, no one can deny that,
Yeah.
and that's part of the reason why I started the company. Part of the reason why I like producing. It's hard because sometimes you work with the director and then you're like, oh, he's part of the crew. And then he turns out to be an asshole. You know what I mean? And it's like, it can jade you a little bit. And I've had those experiences, and they're not grateful, and they don't want to hang other people. And these are mostly people from when I was, in my 20s. Not recently. I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of cool directors who I feel like are part of like a community where people can kind of hang around, ask questions, like maybe influence younger directors. So I think that maybe we're on the cusp of something like that. And, as much as I would love, and I would love to try to help lead that direction for probably a little bit of a younger generation than me. I'm 38 now. And I just feel like there's a lot of younger cusp millennial Gen Z directors that are coming up that are really exciting. And I want to help in some capacity with that, because I feel like, I feel like we're due for like a little bit of a movement.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, I mean, that's my sentiment completely. I'm a director that's very ultra supportive of other directors, and that's a big reason I started this podcast too, is to platform people. And I don't know, man. I think it's a small-minded mentality when people kind of get to. There's a fine line, I think, between being competitive and then being jealous. But so I think it's okay to be competitive, like seeing other people and say like, okay, like this person made a great film. I got to step up my stuff and make it
Totally
be better. But you can still be happy for those people instead of being like, F that person,
Yeah. Or even just, I'm a big sports, and I feel like sports teaches you a lot about kind of teamwork and being competitive, but also having, like sportsmanship, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot to be learned from kind of that. Like, you see communities in like different sports, like, I'm a big hockey fan, and everybody's kind of competitive, but everybody's collectively trying to like pump each other's tires and speak highly of people. And yeah, there's just no downside to it. Like I said, the biggest example is like the cavemen knew that you have to work together. You can't work on your own little islands by yourself. So yeah, I think you'll see more of that. But just, the society itself has become more individualistic and hyper individualistic because of like the bubbles everyone's in. There's not as much of the monocultures as much anymore. So it's like, it's all very different, but I still think you can kind of have those same principles of just kind of like, hey, let's all share each other's movies and hang out and root for each other, because ultimately there's not a finite amount of movies that can get made. There's not a finite amount of money. Like, you're not competing for the same money as someone else. Yeah, maybe if you're working if you have deals with studios and you're competing for the next blockbuster movie, but that's just, I don't know anything about that world. I don't know and I think that whole world's changing now that you have AI slop is making like CGI stuff on your phone. I think people like that's why something like Hail Mary is such an awesome thing, because they didn't use any green screen, and clearly people liked that. Like, it made 600. It's going to make end up making over $1 billion when through all the revenue streams. And because it looks different than what people can see on their phone now, just from some stupid AI video of Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise fighting each other on a building and everything's exploding. There's a law of diminishing return with that kind of movie, which is great because you could still have these great sci-fi movies and action movies, but it's just people are drawn to some sort of realism. Like a puppet looks more real than some CGI thing now. Jurassic Park, like there's something. I was talking to producer Barbara Defina, shout out to her. She's like the best ever. One of the best producers to ever live. She was Martin Scorsese's producer all the way from Goodfellas to Hugo, whatever. But we were talking about this, and it was like, I think younger people are even seeing like the original Jurassic Park and be like, that looks more real for some reason than the new Jurassic Park. Or I don't remember the exact example we brought up, but it was something like the audience are becoming more conscious of younger audiences are starting more conscious of like, why does that look so weird? There's something inside your bones, is just fake about it.
I've thought about that for a very long time. I always thought about that.
It's
like,
crazy.
We're going to look back at this time and people are going to be like, oh my God, like CGI looks so shitty.
Yeah, it's kind of like what, like you look at something like Conan the Barbarian or, John Milius, where it's like, it looks so strange.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I don't think that was the best effects ever. So like, I think people will look almost now at some of these CGI movies like that. Where like, you look at 2001: A Space Odyssey, I mean,
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, it's literally just real. It's just there's no false. It's bizarre that and I saw a lot of, and presumably they're younger. I don't know. It's Instagram, so like I saw on like reels that like people were like, my mind's blown. This movie was made in 1968, and it's like it has like 10,000 likes, and there's people who have no idea who Stanley Kubrick is, and people are like, I see in their comment section like, this is fake. Like they don't even believe it because
I know.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's like yeah, it's actually more about the craft than it is just I'm not to discredit. There's a lot of really great FX people,
of course,
who do incredible work, and like they're making it much better than what it would have been. But I guess all I'm saying is that I just think like the less you have of just kind of a splashy, oversaturated movie of CGI. I just feel like that for the better because that's becoming kind of it's like it's becoming kind of like I can see that on my phone. There's like all these weird AI slop apps that do it. So I think that's great. I think you might see more movies like Hail Mary that are, of course, they're popcorn movies, but they're story driven first, and they're not just like a blender of CGI effects. They're actually very precise, very very character motivated things, and using puppets and stuff like that. You can't argue. It's like almost like I always have to argue this in theory the past few years, but now I'm like, well, you have a case study, right, that just happened a few months ago with Hail Mary, so Project Hail Mary. So that's great, like that's I think there's a turning point in that movie, and maybe that's just me being overly romantic.
I think you're 100% onto something, man. I was having lunch a few weeks ago with my producer and another producer that we were sitting down with that produced a prequel to a major action movie that's coming out. It's like a prequel to like a major action franchise that I'm sworn to secrecy of it. But he was showing me BTS of his phone, and everything was practical effects, and it looked incredible. I'm like, oh my God, so I'm excited, that much more excited to see the film when it comes out.
100%. And I mean, even there's people aware of this before. Favreau, I think, when he was making The Mandalorian, the fact that Baby Yoda is not just this kind of like weird CGI creature, and it's this very obvious puppet, but it's more real because it is a real. It's not a real, Yoda, but it's a real thing that an actor talks with, and there's an actor behind the puppet doing little things like in Project Hail Mary. And I think that's exciting. I think people always think everything's constant. And I used to study finance economics, like we talked about earlier, and I did a short stint at Morgan Stanley as an intern and stuff like that.
I did too. I worked at Morgan Stanley as an intern when I was in college. Yeah.
In New York?
Yeah, in White Plains, New York.
Nice. I was in Albany.
Yeah, that's awesome. They offered me a job in Manhattan, and I turned it down on the spot because it was too low paying.
Yeah, I graduated in I studied economics during the Great Financial Crisis, so it was really cool because I got to like live through people ripping pages of textbooks and be like, this no longer matters. Just changing the rules of everything.
Yeah.
And I worked there for like 6 months, and eventually the broker I worked for said, "Are you on drugs?" And I was like, "No," because he's like, "Well, you show up late every day," and I'm like, "Oh no, I'm just a writer. I'm up all night writing." And he's like, "Just go out to Hollywood, man." And I already kind of made a decision, but it was nice for reaffirmation from somebody. But anyway, so I very much pay attention to markets. I whatever. I'm very involved. I'm very like I have CNBC on while I work during the day, and I have more of my business hat on.
Yeah.
And it's and it's just part of the business of movies is I think trending in a I know it sounds crazy to say, but almost might be trending in a better direction, IMAX has become such a big thing because it's like it's just going to be more selective of what movies are actually playing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. You were mentioning the film brat generation before with Lucas and Coppola. And have you ever heard of this podcast called Blockbuster? It's incredible, man. It really is probably the best produced podcast. Like they take the first season of it was about Spielberg making Jaws, and then
Which everybody's heard a million times.
everybody's heard those stories, but there
was like a new
yeah, it really was a new perspective because they have actors. It's not just people talking about it. They have actors like playing the part.
Oh, that's cool. That's
the
unique.
sound design of it is incredible. And like I just learned so much more. And there's like this one whole part where George Lucas was depressed after basically like a rough cut screening of Star Wars.
Yeah, because everybody was like, this movie's insane.
And Brian De Palma, he went to a dine with Brian De Palma, and De Palma was like, "All right, like George, you have your notebook," and he just went in,
eviscerated.
So just eviscerated it.
Shout out to one of my best friends and producing partner, Nando Vila. He's a big the biggest De Palma guy I've ever met.
That's
and
awesome.
he loves that story because he's just like, and he just came up with the fucking beginning with the title card thing. He's like, you need to explain what we're watching, which is now the most iconic thing ever.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, it's so funny, but yeah, I'm sure that's a great podcast. I love listening to hearing and like, watching and all that stuff with the movie brats. And I
think you're gonna let me know if you listen to this one because it's the best, even just from like a sound design. Like they went all in on this podcast. They did a season 2 with James Cameron, and I always liked James Cameron, but I was never like a James Cameron like fanatic. But after listening to season 2 of this podcast, it gave me a whole new respect for that guy. I'm like, wow, that guy was actually pretty incredible.
Dude, it's so funny because only until a few years ago, I became like, oh, James Cameron's the man. Like, I always knew he's the man. I mean, I'm not an idiot. But it's like, but I get what you mean. It's like, oh, he's way cooler than I even thought. Where it's like, this guy's range is just ridiculous to write. Because like, he didn't just like direct Titanic. He wrote it. Like, what? He wrote
and Titanic. Just the whole like submarine missions to the bottom of
and then he's like traveling, going where no man's ever been before, down to the bottom of the ocean, and then just not being able. He can't make a box office failure, which is just like crazy. Like
it's so
like. And even with Avatar, like people joke there's no pop cultural like relevance. And I think there is something weird to be studied there. Like I kind of course agree. Like it's just like weirdly a movie that makes billions of dollars, but no one really talks about it. So that needs to be studied by like, I don't know, like sociologists or something. Like, but it's so weird. But so whatever, like, it's still a scoreboard. Like people watch it. And I still remember moments of like the last Avatar. I didn't see the newest one where I was like, man, this is so good. But it's just but I have to actually rewatch like True Lies. There's a few Cameron movies I got to revisit. I maybe get back into Terminator, but I
know what you're saying. It's like more people talk about the Blake Lively and what's his name, Justin Baldoni conflict than about Avatar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we're even like I think Marty Supreme, even though it didn't make $1 billion. I mean, whatever, 150 million or it's making a lot of people are watching on HBO Max. Like that felt more culturally right. Maybe this is a kind of what we talked about earlier is more decentralized and there's not monoculture anymore. Maybe just in the pockets I listen to or whatever.
No, there's definitely something there. It's
I'm a Knicks fan and like so it's hard to like you have to kind of know you don't know everything about this what people in this country are watching as opposed to the 80s or 90s when like half like a third like 3/4 of the country are watching like the season finale of Nashville. You know what I mean? Where it's like complete monoculture. Where I just feel like we're never going probably back to that. But the closest thing we do have are Barbenheimer or Project Hail Mary to some extent. And you know, I still think that still exists. And this year is actually shaping up to be a really good year for the box office.
That's
And
actually really good news.
yeah, and honestly, it's like, you know, people always talk about box office, but you know, pre-COVID, there was no big, huge, massive revenue streams for movies on streaming. There was Netflix, of course, but now, so there's more people watching movies than ever. It's just they're not as many maybe people watching them in theaters, but people are just constantly I don't even know if this is good for society, but for business, it's good that people just constantly consume content. You
Yeah.
know, like I don't think movies are as competitive with like Instagram Reels as people think. Maybe for comedies, because I feel like with comedies, you don't need a 3-act structure to make a very funny joke. You can just literally have like, you know, kind of like the Family Guy thing where it's like a random 30-second clip. It makes you laugh. You can't
Yeah.
do that with emotion. You can't have a 30-second clip that just makes you like totally invested and emotional. So like I do see that it does hurt comedies a little bit. I don't think it was just because people were afraid of being like people were because of woke culture or whatever. I think there is an actual competitiveness with online like with
I never
meta.
thought about that. It's an interesting perspective. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
You only need 20 seconds to make someone laugh.
That's so true,
You
man.
don't need 3 hours. And so then that makes the story so much more important in comedies. Busboys is out with Theo Vaughn and David Spade, and you know, it made $1 million or so, whatever. But it's like, yeah, just comedies are tough right now. But you never know. Like Seth Rogen made a good point. Like it's a copycat, like just like in how sports are. Like it's a copycat industry, not league. It's where if there's one big smash hit comedy, next thing you know, executives are going to be greenlighting more comedies. But you know, it hasn't really quite happened yet. You know, like a rated R, PG-13 kind of crass humor comedy. Like Naked Gun is the closest thing we've had to that in a while that made some dent in the box office numbers.
Yeah.
But I think also like everything's now more of a comedy. Like that's, you know, Golden Globes are so funny because it's like it used to be like, oh, the comedies and the dramas, and dramas were more dramatic and comedies were more comedic. Where I think something like Marty Supreme is funny as hell.
Oh,
You know?
absolutely. And we're gonna
One
get
battle
to
after the other is funny, and so
we're gonna get to the 2 movies, but Goodfellas plays like a comedy to me. You know?
Yeah, I mean, Goodfellas is everything.
It's everything. It's everything.
It's
So and
fun.
we're gonna get to that. But I know what you're saying. I actually thought, funny enough, I thought comedy was gonna be my lane when I first became a filmmaker. I kind of got into the lane of making sort of crime and sort of maybe like a harder edge kind of thing. But I always thought, you know, because I just grew up loving comedy.
Like capital C comedy, like Wayne's World, or more like
Wayne's
Fargo?
World. I mean, I grew like, you know, I'm a few years older than you, but like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like John Hughes movies, and then Wayne's World. Yeah, Wayne's World came out when I was a little kid.
Yeah, because there's some people who are like, oh, because like myself included, like I can't imagine making anything too serious. Like even the movie I'm working on right now, which I'm really excited about, and working, you know, with Mandalay and stuff like that. It's really cool. It's like someone said, like, not them, but someone else who I sent it to when I was pitching it around town. They're like, this is too dark, and I'm like, oh, like I don't like. There's gonna be so many funny moments, like because it's like I can't see life being too serious. I just have an absurdist view on you know, on Lammy, you're looking. I know this is audio. The audience can't see, but I'm sitting underneath a poster of the discreet charm of the bourgeoisie over there, where it's like there's always a little absurdity in real life, and if it's too serious, I think there might be something kind of off with it.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's what. I guess we'll get to Goodfellas, but I think that's what a lot of gangster movies. I mean, I grew up in a part of the Bronx that, you know. It's
you did? Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I
like,
forgot to ask
like,
you were asking where I'm from. But yeah, dude, I just Northern Jersey is kind of where I only lived there for a year. I moved when I was a little baby, but like my cousins and, you know, aunts and uncles, a lot of them still lived in kind of North Jersey near Patterson and Prospect. Like so, like I love that area. But sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, you know, like there's like Scorsese nails it, and we'll get to Goodfellas in a minute, but like he he nails it with Goodfellas. But like, there's so many. I'm sure you've seen so many bad like crime movies where like everybody's all serious. I'm like, it's not really like that. It's not like
No, it's
like people.
like Joe Pesci at the table,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
thing. You know, all like you think I'm funny, or even
Like dance,
I think
or like you know what I mean, like dance. You know,
yeah, dance motherfucker. Yeah. You know, we're the part when he says, he's like, don't say it, don't say it.
Yeah.
Like I won't say the line, but it's like, but like, yeah, of course, they're bombastic, they're gregarious, they're funny, they're not always super serious. I mean, and obviously one of the great lines is the narration is Henry Hill, who, by the way, how the hell he got not nominated for an Oscar? That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Like that's one of the best performances on screen I think ever, in my opinion. And it was just, I mean, Joe Pesci won, so like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but like it's just and the Oscars don't always obviously ever or almost ever get it right. Like, you know, I'm a big Marty Supreme guy. I think Timothy should on that one, man.
I think
love
so.
That movie.
Listen,
as somebody from New York, did you like that movie?
Loved that movie.
So good.
Yeah, I thought every moment of it, I was like in for the ride, and I'm kind of an early.
I saw it it's gonna make me sound such like a loser, but I was like a propagandist for the movie. I took 4 different people to 4 different PGA screenings.
Nice.
I saw the movie 4 times in the theater.
Yeah. I'm a Morgan Supreme
because I wanted to
apologist as
see
well, so don't worry.
Not because I wanted to see it over and over, because I just wanted to bring someone who I thought would love the movie. And then, you know,
Yeah. That's
after
really
an hour,
generous.
I'm going to go take a vape break and walk around. I've seen this 5 times, but like, but it was just like, it was exciting to show people that movie, because it's like, yeah, like this is a true, like, you know, this is a throwback a little bit, but I don't even want to say throwback. Like, I think that there is as somebody who loves making movies and writing movies and watching movies about degenerates or gray area characters, it was just cool to see that again. When people were almost confused, they're like, how can anybody like this character? It's like, you don't have to like the character. This character is not a great person, but he's human. He's got flaws and he's got good things about him, a lot of bad, but that's just more realistic. You know what I mean? It's like,
I did hear like one criticism from a friend of mine that said, he was like, oh, you might as well just call it, you might as well call his character Holden Caulfield. You know what I mean? It was like, maybe
Holding what?
Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
maybe, but I like Holden Caulfield. You know what I mean? I thought he was
exactly.
really,
Yeah,
you know, like I don't see that as a bad thing, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, you can't knock the movie for being not original. It's about somebody who is obsessed with achieving their dream, and nobody even respects the dream. You know, usually movies are about somebody's like, I want to be the best this, and people are like, you'll never be that. But it's like, why do you even want to be?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Which is kind of the funny twist on it, and that's what makes it unique, is that his dream is so personal that nobody even cares about. Like every other movie you see somebody a bit ambitious, like Whiplash. Like, there's respect in that world of jazz. Yes. Like, people are like, oh wow, like, but it's like, dude, you're playing ping pong, like, relax. But he's so obsessed with it. And
he's so obsessed with it.
Which is like you know, especially with movies not being as big of a monoculture now. It's like, oh no, movies are still something that people aspire to be. So it's unique in that sense, where it's about a guy who's willing to do anything for his dream, but not only people not respect his journey to the dream, they don't respect the dream even. You know what I mean?
They don't even respect the dream. And that's a perfect
like,
example. It's a perfect example of, I always say that there's a gravitational pull for a movie to be horrible, right? Like, and if you hear, you know, like a movie is not automatically going to be good, obviously. Like you work in film, like you'd see how difficult it is to make these things.
It's so hard to make a movie.
It's so hard.
Much less a decent one, much less a good one, much less a really good one or a classic. It's just,
or an outstanding one, especially.
Yeah, or even just a movie on its own. That's why it's funny, if you like, people go to my letterbox, you can follow me at Janek Ambros, I think it is. It's like, I give every movie like 4 stars and above. Like, other than like a few movies that have like infinite money, and I'm like, guys, like, what, like, but like, it's so hard for me to criticize movies, even, you know, like, it's actually funny you talked about the Star Wars thing. I've always liked and appreciated, and I'm definitely probably like this, where it's like everybody was kind of ripping on the movie and De Palma and stuff like that, and then rightfully so. I think he implemented a lot of the notes, but especially De Palma's. But like, Spielberg was just like, I think it's great. I think it's gonna gross $1 billion. Like, that's just like, that's what kind of makes me not the greatest producer, is I'm not the best at giving script notes because I'm like,
Oh, like
this is
critical
great.
feedback. Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this is awesome. I'm like more of a cheerleader. Like, and
Yeah.
it's like maybe someone else should give you harsh criticism because I'm just like, you know, unless I find it fucking have tons of holes or something. But like,
Yeah.
no, if it's like decent, I'm just like, this is awesome. You know? I just get so excited, and I'm so good at being a critic on myself, but I'm so bad at being a critic unless it's the edit room. With the edit room, I get a little bit more, you know, what the hell's going on here, and I get more specific. Maybe
Well, I
because
think that's
I'm
understandable.
dyslexic and I'm not good at reading.
Well, also then it's so close to being finished, so a note could really elevate.
Yeah, no, I love
It
giving
could,
notes
it could
on
mold it
movies
into a
together.
better
Yeah.
direction right there and then.
I'm so
Yeah.
much better at giving notes on an edit than I am at a screenplay. But like I said, regardless though, I'm still just mostly excited. And I can't, and if a movie's out, I have a hard time criticizing it too much. Like it, because it's just like, oh man, they made a movie. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. Listen,
For better
I'm
or
like
for
that.
worse, that's how I am. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, my point with Marty Supreme is on paper, if you're like, oh yeah, like it's good, it's a movie about a ping pong player that's following his ambitions, like, oh, okay, like that could be horrifically bad. In fact, by every known metric, it should be bad. That's why it's an amazing film, is that it's like, no, this was amazing. You know, it transcended the thing that it was about, you know?
100%. I'm such a big fan of the movie. It was definitely my favorite movie of last year, and probably that and Zone of Interest are my two favorite movies of the past, 10 years or whatever.
By the way, did you see, have you heard of this film, Surat? It's out.
No, I want to see it though. Is that Spanish, right?
It was filmed in Morocco. Yeah.
Oh, Morocco. Okay.
Yeah, you have to see this. It was incredible.
No, I want to see Secret Agent too.
Oh yeah, that was a great one too. I saw that in the
I haven't seen. I think I ran out of steam. I watched because I had the Producers Guild app and I just coasted through like 20 movies and I was just like, can't do anymore.
Yeah.
I'll pick up the rest. All of them, Sentimental Value, like pretty much every movie except Secret Agent. That I was like, I need to see this movie because
Yeah,
it
it
looked
was
so
really
cool.
great.
But it was like, I just ran out of gas. I was like, I gotta watch like Singing in the Rain or something. I need to like watch like a classic Hollywood movie because I just can't keep watching new movies.
For sure. I totally lost my train of thought. I feel like I was going to say something in particular.
Movies, dude.
Yeah, movies, man. So before we segue into the next portion of the podcast, is there anything that you're kind of working on that you want to highlight or that you want to
there's a really talented director, Miranda Hart, who I'm a producer on her movie called Off to the Races. That's going to come out next year. There's a really good documentary that Vinny DeLuca directed called Desert Angel. It's a documentary about a guy who finds lost families when they're crossing the border. I'm a producer on that, and that's going to come out end of the year. But really, everybody can follow everything I'm doing on Assembly Line Ent, like entertainment. Assembly Line Ent on Instagram. That's kind of that's the home base. I mean,
okay, great.
That's where everything's there and stuff like that. And I have, 4 movies that I'm packaging right now that I'm a writer and producer on, and then one I'm writer-director on that I'm doing with Mandalay, which I'm really excited about. So those are the kind of, but those won't be out for, 2 years, So it's like, I'm definitely, I guess you call it in sports, a rebuild year, retool year, where I'm definitely focusing more on developing and now packaging projects that are a little bit bigger. I'm kind of trying to take that next step from festivals into maybe more, maybe not just commercial viability, but just more eyeballs on movies, whether that be a little bit more genre or, working with maybe bigger talent as a writer, producer, and director in that one case. So yeah, that's everybody can kind of follow Assembly Line Ent and just see kind of updates and stuff like that. We have a lot of really cool directors we're working with, a lot of cool producers, a lot of cool collaborators, etc.
Nice. And all right, so segueing to the transitioning here to the next portion of the podcast where I ask each guest what are 2 of their favorite movie scenes of all time. I should call this the Kent Sanderson Award. You won the Kent Sanderson Award because there's a guy on the podcast, Kent Sanderson of Bleecker Street Films, that he answered it the fastest, and I think you were neck and neck with.
Fuck, really? I was, but I should still beat him because I was in a dentist chair.
You know what? Yeah, we got
the woman, the Russian dentist got upset at me because I was like typing. Because I was like, I'll do this later. Fuck. So I didn't beat him.
Well, you won the Kansas. Like, you know what? We got to see. We got to actually look at the number. If you
look at the
really
number,
we're going to look at the numbers.
I'm competitive. I said, it's okay to be competitive. It's okay to be competitive. And this is the one thing I'll be competitive with.
Okay.
I'm good at emails.
Yeah. We'll call it the Janek Ambros Award if you won.
If I want,
Yeah. So, all right. So the first film we'll talk about is Lawrence of Arabia. Obviously, it's the epic historical drama directed by David Lean. What scene of Lawrence of Arabia was the scene that resonated with you here?
So they're all kind of traversing through harsh, desert storms, and he leaves one of the kids who kind of aids him. They basically, say, hey, can I help you for just a little bit of money? He takes on these two kids or whatever.
For
and
one shilling a week. Yeah.
What?
He pays them each 1 shilling a week, which the other guy told him, he's like, just pay them both the 1 shilling a week.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. He was nice to those kids,
Right. And so earlier in the movie, Omar Sharif says something like it's written, it's part of that kind of worldview of a lot of these of Arabs that he's going to war with, and he keeps saying it's written, it's written in the future and history. And so this one of the servants, for lack of a better word, I forget their names, gets left behind, and it just makes no sense for T. Lawrence, played by Peter O'Toole, to go back into go miles back to try to find him. And eventually he does, and it's just the crescendo of Maurice Jarre's score that is just so insane. It's like the combination of those big, expansive wide shots, the Maurice Jarre score just blazing, just going insane. They're just and he comes back, he gets him, and it plays totally into this idea of the white savior, which this movie is very much about. It's not like this movie is a white savior movie. It's kind of critiquing the idea of being a Western colonizing persona who goes against the colonizers, but maybe has his own sense of narcissism. Like the scene when he's dancing around in the robes and he's looking at himself in the mirror with the knife. I mean, it's just purposely encapsulates this kind of narcissistic view of how Westerners sometimes feel like they're these white saviors, right? And so he comes back, but he just saves him. he saves him, and then he brings him back, and then everybody thought they would be dead, and then he comes back, and the Maurice Jarre score is blazing again, and then it subsides, and then he walks over, and he goes to Omar Sharif and says, nothing's written, and then he collapses on the bed, and it's like, what a great sequence, it's like more of a sequence than a scene, but it's just, I remember watching that when I was 14 or something, and I was like, what did I just watch? That was so cool. You know what I mean?
That was very powerful.
It's so good, and it's just it says a lot. If you just watched it on your own, if you watched it with no context, it would be good. In context of the movie, it's incredible. And yeah, it's just one of those scenes that always stuck with me. And I'm a big believer in just the combination of visuals and score. That's all really movies is. It doesn't need to always be so literary. And of course, the button of the scene is literary. He's saying a line of dialogue and is doing payoff to a plant that happens earlier. It's very Hollywood, very screenwriting-ish, but it just works, and it's just so cool.
It's so important. And yeah, you definitely have to watch Surat, because the first 15 minutes of that film, there is no dialogue, because it's at a rave in the desert, which actually, just like Lawrence of Arabia, apparently Lawrence of Arabia was filmed in real deserts in Jordan, Morocco, and Spain. So it'd be wild to think that Surat was filmed in a Moroccan desert where they were filming Lawrence of Arabia, but doing a rave there,
Yeah.
And in the first 15 minutes of the film, it's all just the visuals and the music, but you can piece together what the story is just from the pure visuals of what's happening. There's a dad walking around this rave with a missing picture of a girl, and it's clear
you already know what's going on.
Yeah, because at first you see this guy walking around with the kid, and you're like, what are they doing here? You know, like, why is this little kid at a rave? But then the dude has a missing poster and he's showing it to people. It's like, oh, so you're just piecing it together from like the pure visuals of like, man, that's such powerful cinematic storytelling.
Yeah, even Lawrence of Arabia at the beginning is great because it begs the question of the whole movie. It's like someone's like, "Oh my God, it was his funeral," and he's like, "Oh,
That was so strong with the motorcycle.
How much I miss how like the world will miss such a great man." And somebody I think goes up to him and says, "Did you ever know him?" And then kind of has a Citizen Kane beginning where it's like, "What is this? Who was this person?" And you have different kind of viewpoints on him, and then it goes into it, and it's just one of the most complex characters in cinema history, and I think it might be the best performance in the like top. I hate breaking things. Like I don't fully, as much as I love it, I don't fully subscribe to the kind of like Simmons, like, Rumble, like, ranking everything. And it's like taught, like making it like, it's like, oh, they were like they were like the Lakers in the 70s. It's like, I don't know. It's not sports, but like, I like sports, still fun doing it. I still think that probably is helpful for movies because we're just America and we like competition. But like, that to me, if I were to put it on the Mount Rushmore, which is, even Ari Emanuel has a really cool podcast called Mount Rushmore. I would put that on the Mount Rushmore. Gun to my head, I would put it on the Mount Rushmore of greatest performances of all time.
Yeah. I think there's definitely a strong argument to be made. And apparently it made Peter O'Toole become an overnight star because...
Yeah, and 11 Oscar nominations, I think, or I don't know the exact number, but no wins. So that's when people are like, oh, it never won an Oscar. It's like, dude, Peter O'Toole was a top 10 actor of all time and never won. Venus, he was like 90 when he was nominated for Venus and didn't win.
That's wild. Steven Spielberg has called it his favorite film on several occasions.
Oh, yeah.
So that's, and the match cut has to be mentioned. I mean, early in the film when Lawrence blows out a match and the movie smash cuts to the sunrise over the desert.
Oh, it's incredible, man.
It's one of the best match cuts ever. To me, that and the match cut in 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's
and I will say that the only mixture of scenic extreme wide shots with score that are this is just opinion because I just like the music better, that I like more, not the scene, but just the idea of a big, wide, expansive, extreme wide shot and music is Once Upon a Time in the West. I remember
Once Upon a Time.
Web music is just the most beautiful.
The Ennio Morricone music.
It's the best. I think it's my favorite piece of music ever written. It's so good. Claudius theme. That is just like.
And Tarantino, I think, just directly took that and Kill Bill.
No, I don't think he. That's not. He didn't take that one song. Not Claudius theme, because I would remember that because it's
not Claudius theme, but the other, like the
I'm sure. I mean, he kind of throws a lot of it into a blender and just makes it its own kind of craziness, which is just so awesome in its own way. Where he's kind of doing a collage of music and what better place could you take it from than Ennio Morricone? But but the sequence itself is just so powerful. Not just the combination of extreme wides and music, which I love. In my first movie, I worked with Corey Wallace, who's a composer, and we went out to Barstow and shot it for Croatia, and we did these huge mountainous wide shots, extreme shots. And I was like 22, and I was like, finally, I get to do my do my extreme wide shots with a score. But,
which part of Croatia were you?
I was trying to mimic like outside of Dalmatia, where it's a little bit more deserty.
Nice. My family.
I don't know if it looks out. But he looked good. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, my family's from Montenegro, actually. Yeah, so I've definitely flown to Croatia many times. Cool, man. So yeah, Lawrence of Arabia, of course, incredible film. Goodfellas, another one of my favorites of all time, clearly. And yeah, let's talk Goodfellas.
Dude, the Billy Bat sequence.
Bat sequence is.
It's just
So first, I guess like it seems crazy to even give the scene context because everybody probably
it's just random. I mean, the guy gets out of jail. Pesci and De Niro and Henry Hill are hanging out at their bar that they own or extorting or whatever. It's theirs. And the guy comes and Pesci's like, oh fuck, he's with a hot date. And he's like, God damn it, this fucking guy. And then he gives him shit. And Pesci and De Niro won't take it. De Niro gets pissed because he's a little bit of a paternalistic figure to Pesci, Tommy.
I love
And
that. I love that part. I love his reaction to. He's like, I was just breaking balls a little
yeah,
bit.
just a little bit. Yeah,
A little bit you did though. A little bit. You
yeah. It's classic. I mean, it's like, but the reason why I guess it's more fun to talk about other than just like it's a cool scene that like me and my buddies will watch it on YouTube on a late night and be like, oh, sick, is like the filmmaking, the sound pretension, best pretentious way I could put it, like the mise en scène, the setup of the whole thing, and the combination of music and action and shots is just perfect. It's plays Donovan, Atlantis by Donovan, which is the chorus is like a happy hippie like song, but as soon as it kicks in, does that it does the pan upward, locks it, pans to Henry Hill's face, and then goes back, and then you see Pesci and Henry Hill reluctantly behind them, and De Niro, and then Frank Vincent turns around, and then the chorus kicks in, and it's this happy hippie song. And this was before people did the antithetic like music
juxtaposition. Yeah,
exactly. This wasn't. I mean, I guess by the 1990 there was more of it, but no, Scorsese kind of Kubrick did it first.
Yeah, but it was the Clockwork Orange. But
yeah, Clockwork Orange.
But this was definitely before Tarantino.
I mean,
this is before Reservoir Dogs, before Pulp Fiction, like way before it became popular to do.
Yeah, Scorsese was really, and it's not surprised. I'm surprised I didn't pick a Kubrick scene. My two favorite directors are Scorsese and Kubrick, and then Coppola's in there, but as more of a broad filmmaker, not just the director, because he's also a producer. And company.
Those are my two favorite filmmakers as well.
Yeah, it's like, well, are they both from? Well, Scorsese's from Brooklyn, Kubrick from the Bronx.
Kubrick's from the Bronx, yeah.
Yeah, he used to play chess out there in Battery Park.
Yeah,
and so it's just the perfect combination. It makes you excited for violence, which is a weird thing to say, but that's what Kubrick was also very good at. That he'd make you giddy for something that's in your id and in your just subconscious of maybe the primitive side of you, and that scene nails that. I mean, the fact that De Niro's like kicking his face but misses, it's very real. Very cool sped up shot by Thelma Schoonmaker when they throw him down on the ground. You speed up again. Everything's planned out almost like in Raging Bull. There was a lot of edit sequences that were edited during the shot list. This was clearly one of those moments where it was just perfection. I have a sequence that, admittedly, is in my next movie, Night Trader, is very inspired by this scene. And it's just, I just think it's top level. I think it's
so top level.
It's so top level. It's like
the Donovan song too is so incredible with it.
So it's one of the best songs ever made. And then I mean, Departed. There was that one sequence where he goes, "What are you delivering, cannolis or something?" And the guys from Providence, and they play no, Henry Nilsson. That's a good one too. But is just like, it's just perfect. And then he goes, "I didn't mean to get blood on your floor." And Henry Hill looks at him and he just goes, he's like, "Oh, this guy's nuts,"
Yeah.
And it's just, and then even when he takes after the sequence where they beat him up and they start cleaning it up, the first time he whips out the cloth from the dinner table to clean it, notice the first time it's like the sound design's crazy. It's a roar. And then the second time he does it, it's organic and it's normal, but they just bump it up to 10 DPS or whatever, and put in some God knows what sound they put in there.
Right.
And it's also really
it's cool. A good observation, actually.
Yeah, and it's also just the movie means a lot to me because that was the first movie that I remember. My first memory as a human being, not just movie I saw. First memory as a human being was watching Spaceballs.
I love Spaceballs.
Explains a lot, probably, for my weirdness. But
Mel Brooks.
I would just watch Goodfellas when I was like 6 and 7 years old, and just I don't know what it's like to not watch this, have seen this movie 100 times. So that's very young for a movie like this. But I had a lot of cousins who were like, "You should watch this movie," like Italian cousins.
Right.
And so it means a lot to me there. And then also, I used to have a poster in my room as a kid, and it would say, Martin Scorsese. I didn't understand what these things meant. I was still very young. I was still under 10 years old. And one of them was executive producer Barbara DeFina. And when I first reached out to Barbara, who's now a close friend of mine and my mentor, I said, this is 10 years ago. I said, hey, I used to have a movie poster for Goodfellas, and it said executive producer, and I always wanted to wonder what that was. And now she's obviously, or now she's, I'm working with her on 2 films. So to have her as my mentor, that's tied to this movie that means so much to me, and then also just means a lot to me in a sense of being kind of from the metro area of New York, Jersey, just that kind of world, kind of be immortalized. Especially like the last hour of that movie is my favorite. Like that is my favorite last hour of a movie ever. It's when 1980, and then they start playing the another Harry Nilsson song, and you're just seeing him like. It's like a Safdie brother movie. Like that's the thing is when people say, "Oh, Safdie brothers have those movies." Like, yeah, but those are all movies that you can look back to the last hour of Goodfellas, where he's just got the helicopters. I got to do this. I got to do that. Everything's going wrong, and he's got to go to the. And it just never stops, and you're in the head of a cokehead, which is like cinematically, I think something that even a lot of these other movies about degenerates don't do is you are totally in it with them, and it's all perspective. And and Scorsese apparently was just saying quicker, faster, and then it's just to the point where it was just this for 1990 was just this high octane sweep for 45 minutes up until there's a gun against his head, and he was like, I knew they weren't mafia because if they were, I'd be dead, and he was the police officers. And it's just great. I mean,
it's so great. And I remember
best movie ever. I mean, I don't know. It's probably, to me, my top 4 movie, my Mount Rushmore movies are that, Dr. Strangelove. I don't even know. I mean, those are probably my 2 favorite. Apocalypse Now, Godfather 2. I mean,
I love Godfather. Godfather Part 2 is...
Goodfellas and Dr. Strangelove. If I were to pick a favorite movie, I would have those tied. That's the closest I can get to picking a favorite movie.
Yeah, Godfather Part 2 is the number 1.
Oh yeah, it's so much better than 1.
Yeah,
because like, dude,
it's so intricate. Just getting into Michael Corleone's head, but and just
the second one's like Pete. Like you can't do a movie better than that. The first one is obviously like that too, but 2 is just like so much more controlled. It's so much more Coppola's like exact what he wanted, where the first one was very rough, which is also it's like some of it's kind of rough. Like, they're using like 1970 or 70 stock footage for Vegas. If you look
right.
It's
That's
a little bit. It's a little bit, like, which is cool, which makes it even cooler in my view. But 2 is just like the fact that you have a scene where Michael Corleone's sister is on her knees and like kissing his hand, begging him, and it doesn't feel for help, and it doesn't feel melodramatic. Is absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. If you like
the scene with the senator was like senator.
To pull off a scene like that, and it not feel like ridiculous and not melodramatic and not soapy is just insane. And it's because Gordon Willis was a big part of that with the cinematography, and of course the acting, and Pacino, and Taylor Share is Coppola's sister. But like and obviously he made Megalopolis, where there's a lot of scenes where you're like, what the fuck.
Did you watch the documentary about the making?
No, I'm going to.
It's so good.
I'm Coppola's biggest fan, but that was a wacky one. But it's funny to see that, and there's some almost similarities but somehow the 2 it works. So it's like the drama and the melodrama just works where it doesn't feel like it. But you can see him almost trying to do some of like ridiculous soapy drama that he pulled off years ago, and it just doesn't. It's so hard to do. I mean, it's impossible.
I was reading up that when he made Godfather 1, he turned to his editor and said, and he was like disappointed, I guess. And he's like, well, I tried to make a gangster movie. He's like, you tried to make a gangster movie.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many crazy things in that movie, but it was cool to see Coppola thank Robert Evans at the Oscars a few years ago after he died, because I'm a big fan of Robert Evans, and they hated each other.
Yeah.
They were to get into lawsuits and stuff over Cotton Club. He fired him like 5 times on Godfather. And Godfather 2, he actually purposely said, I don't want Robert Evans involved. But at the Oscars a few years ago, he thanked during his, I don't know, Irving Thalberg Award. No, I don't know. It was some sort of Oscar Lifetime Achievement Award. I forget which one. And he thanked Evans, and that was like a very cool moment, because it's like they were like the 2 top of their game, but they just like, to make it full circle perfect, is it's the great debate and the great fight of art and commerce, and you have to somehow find that congruence and make it fit. and it's just very difficult, and when it
Very
hits,
difficult.
yeah.
Yeah. The Kid Stays in the Picture is such a great documentary.
Dude, audiobook, you have to listen to that because
I'm going to listen to it, actually.
oh, it's so good. The documentary is great, good for the filmmaker or whatever, but it's like the audio book, because he's narrating it himself. So it's very like, and then also the Bill Hader spoof on Kid Stays in the Picture on Documentary Now, I highly recommend to people. It's so funny.
Okay, I'm going to check that
Plays
out.
Gary Wallach, and it's so funny. It's 2 parts. So Mulaney wrote it. I think it's Mulaney's best work because he just wrote this mockumentary and they made it a 2-parter. So it's like an hour and 10 minutes long, and it's like a movie. And it spoofs Kid Stays in the Picture, and it's just fucking brilliant. It's so funny.
Check that out. Yeah, Bill Hader is amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Janek Ambros, I'm so grateful to you being on the podcast. I really enjoyed this conversation, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Next time you want me on, I'm gonna, if I didn't win that award of fastest to answer 2 scenes, I'm gonna do it next time. You just wait and see.
Okay, I believe it.
Thank you for listening to the Film Situation podcast with your host Seth Cotter. Produced by Cole Howard.